My parents' voices cracked through the phone. Living with her is awful, but we're only here for the money. Sorries. My sister laughed, as if it were a joke. I'm Claire, 33 years old, and one late evening turned my life upside down. I had just finished what seemed like a typical phone call with my folks when I noticed they hadn't hung up. Their voices cracked through my phone, crisp and uncensored. As they spoke with my sister, my father's tone was chilly and almost mechanical. It's difficult to live with her, but we are simply staying for her money. Before I could process it, my sister's laughter pierced through the air, cruel taunting, as if she had known the truth all along. My palm grabbed the phone so firmly that it ached, and my heart was pounding so hard that it felt like it was about to break free. The room whirled, and my gut twisted, but I didn't weep or scream. I just sat there, paralyzed, as each syllable cut itself into me. They assumed I had gone oblivious, while in fact I was hearing their treachery in real time. Each second stretched beyond infinity. My parents, the people I trusted the most in the world, saw me not as a daughter, but as a bank account. My sister's laughter rang in my thoughts, each note taunting me and reaffirming how little I really meant to them. I remained on my couch long after the call had finished, staring at the black screen of my phone and repeating the scene over and over. Had things always been this way? Had each pleasant phrase been tinged with calculation? I did not have the answers. All I knew was that nothing could undo what I'd just heard. These remarks had drawn a line that I could never cross again. They changed everything. Before I proceed, I'd like to hear from you. Have you ever discovered something about your family that changed the way you viewed them? Please share your story in the comments. I'd like to know how you handled the weight of betrayal and what it taught you about trust. The next morning, I poured coffee as if nothing had happened. The kitchen smelled like toast and bacon, like it always did, but every motion seemed like I was acting in an unrehearsed performance. I placed plates on the table, flipped pancakes, and wiped off counters, my hand steady despite the storm in my thoughts. I needed to keep it together. I had to watch them without giving myself away. My father shuffled in and grabbed a mug without glancing at me. His gaze shifted to the newspaper, avoiding mine as if he knew I'd heard something I shouldn't. "Morning," he murmured, barely audible, before hiding his face in the sports section. I nodded, forced a smile, and watched him drink his coffee too quickly, as if he was in a hurry to get somewhere else. My mother followed her bright, phony voice as she talked about a neighbor's new automobile. "Isn't it fancy?" she asked, laughing too loudly and fiddling with a napkin. "I agreed," I said calmly. But my gut twisted. She was trying too hard, compensating for something. Then my sister Lena slouched in, absorbed to her phone, and barely grunted a greeting. Her thumb sped across the screen, most likely going through social media or texting someone about her failed clothing brand. She didn't even look at the breakfast I'd prepared. I kept moving, cleaning plates, but my eyes were keen, capturing every detail. Dad's fidgeting, Mom's fake enthusiasm, and Lena's indifferent demeanor made them seem like strangers with familiar faces. I'd always assumed we were a close-knit family who shared everything. 4 years ago, I purchased this large house in Portland, Oregon, so we could all live together. After my grandfather died, I inherited enough to cover the mortgage, bills, groceries, utilities, and even Mom's shopping sprees. I assumed they had moved in gratefully. Dad retired early. Mom, too, and Lena, a few years older, had relied on me since her business failed. I'd paid for everything, no questions asked, thinking it was what families did, but suddenly, every recollection seemed contaminated. Had they always viewed me as a financial account? I remember Dad asking about my finances last month, with a casual yet questioning tone. Or when Mom pressed me to treat them to a lavish supper, her smile was too big. Lena never offered to help out, always stating she was between jobs. I'd dismissed it, supposing they were just suffering. Worry. Their activities appeared to be more deliberate now. While washing a pan, I took out my phone and launched the Note app. I put, "Dad avoids eye contact." Mom is very happy. Lena does not care. I added extra times. Dad inquired about my investments. Mom is suddenly interested in my work bonuses. Lena's incessant phone scrolling. Each element seemed like a puzzle piece, producing an image I wasn't expecting to see. I wasn't sure what they were hiding, but I'd find out. Later that day, I caught Lena glancing at my laptop, which was left open on the counter. When I stepped in, she hurriedly closed it, muttering something about checking the weather. My stomach churned. Something seemed wrong. I stuck to my routine, drove to my software work, and coded during meetings, but my mind was elsewhere. I remembered giving Mom the nice coat she wanted for Christmas last year. She'd held me and called me her rock, but those words suddenly seemed hollow. Dad clapped my shoulder, happy of my success. Was it pride or greed? Lena had scarcely thanked me for the money I gave her for business costs. I believed I was helping, but perhaps I was just their meal ticket. By evening, I was sitting in my room, phone in hand, going through my notes. I added another. Lena checked my laptop today. I did not face them yet. I needed more than suspicion. I would observe and delve deeper. Sure, they assumed I was clueless, but I was fully awake now. This, my house, was no longer a home. It was a stage, and I had finished playing their game. By Wednesday, I was noticing things I had previously disregarded. Dad's harsh and probing queries about my finances felt different now. At breakfast, he leaned across the table, coffee mug in hand, and said, "How's that investment account doing, Claire?" His tone was casual, but his eyes darted away too quickly, as if he was looking for something. I shrugged, said everything was okay, and switched the conversation to the weather. He didn't push, but the air was thick, like if he was waiting for me to slip up. I noticed him later, flipping through stations on the living room TV, his fingers tapping nervously. It wasn't a one-time event. He asked about my work bonuses last week, and he wanted to know about my savings the month before that. I'd assumed he was just being a concerned father. Now it felt like he was keeping score. Mom wasn't doing much better. She returned home that afternoon with shopping bags, luxury purses, a silk scarf, and shoes priced higher than my monthly vehicle payment. "Just a little treat," she explained, smiling cheerfully as she unpacked them on the kitchen counter. I nodded, but my thoughts raced. Those weren't minor things. I'd seen her splurge before. New dresses, fancy cooking gadgets, but this was too much even for her. She noticed me gazing and giggled, brushing it off. "You work so hard, Claire, and we deserve to enjoy it too." Her comments stung, as if she thought my money was theirs to squander. I didn't confront her, simply kept my face neutral, but internally I was adding everything up. Lena was the absolute worst. She hadn't worked in months and said her fashion business was on hold. I discovered her splayed on the couch, phone in hand, surfing around social media rather than looking for work. "Anything new with your designs?" I inquired, keeping my voice light. She hardly looked up and muttered, "Not yet. I'm too busy." With what? Posting selfies and liking others' postings? I remembered when she had begged me for a loan to launch her brand, which I had given without hesitation. Her sloth blazed at me, a clue I'd overlooked for far too long. That evening, I began digging by taking a stack of bills from a drawer in my home office. Utility bills, credit card statements, and restaurant receipts. They were all in my name and paid from my account. I hadn't considered it previously. I only wanted to keep the family comfortable. However, as I flipped through, the numbers did not add up. A $600 supper at a steakhouse I had never visited. A $2,400 charge for boutique apparel that I did not possess. A membership to a streaming service that I didn't use. My hands shook as I spread the papers on my desk. Each one is a question mark. Who was spending this? Mom's baggage appeared in my head. Dad asks questions. Lena's nonstop scrolling. I noted down the charges on my phone, next to the notes I had started on Monday. The list grew, and so did the knot in my gut. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling and attempting to make sense of it. Have they always been like this? When I accepted my IT job, I remembered family dinners, Mom's loving hugs, and Dad's happy smiles. Were we real or part of the act? Lena used to tell me about her dreams and failures. She now felt like a stranger, as if I were only a means to an end. I wanted to believe that they loved me, not just my bank account, but the proof was building up. I didn't have proof yet, not the type I could present and demand answers for, but the signals were clear. Later that week, I saw Mom sneak a credit card statement into her purse. Her movements were rapid, as if she didn't want me to notice. "Just organizing," she replied when I raised an eyebrow. I didn't purchase it. At dinner, Lena grumbled about her phone being too slow, implying that she needed a new one. Dad chimed in, saying I could help out because I was doing so well. I smiled nervously, said I'd think about it, then excused myself to my room. Alone, I reopened my note app and typed, "Mom hit a statement. Lena wants a new phone. Dad's pushing again." I wasn't ready to address them, not without something concrete. That Friday, I sat alone in my office, repeating their remarks, not the ones on the call. I put those out of my thoughts, but they had repeatedly encouraged me to open my wallet. I glanced at my computer screen, code blurring as recollections became clearer. Last summer, Mom insisted on a family vacation to the Smoky Mountains, claiming it would be beneficial to us. I had paid for the cabin, food, and even gas, while she grinned and termed it bonding. Dad had urged me to pay for their car repairs, claiming they were short on funds. I had given out thousands of dollars, thinking I was helping. Lena was the most daring, always asking for just a little to keep her fashion fantasies alive. I supported her website, fabric orders, and marketing. None of it ever worked out. Each memory seemed like a brick, forming a barrier between the family I imagined I had and the actuality. I couldn't remain in that workplace surrounded by lines of code that made more sense than my life. I got my jacket and headed to a downtown coffee shop where I'd planned to meet my buddy Maya. She was already there, sipping a cappuccino with her laptop open to a graphic design job. I slid into the seat, and before I could stop myself, the story came out. The call, my parents' betrayal, and Lena's nasty laugh. Maya's eyes flared and then softened. "Claire, that's awful," she replied, grabbing for my hand. "You don't deserve that." Her voice was steady and grounded me. She didn't sugarcoat it, simply listened and leaned forward. "You're smart. Don't let them play you. Get the facts. Protect yourself." I nodded, her words breaking through the fog in my thoughts. She did not try to make me feel better or pretend it was not serious. She simply provided me clarity. I left the coffee shop feeling lighter and able to breathe again. Driving home, I began to tear apart old memories that had been buried under the weight of familial allegiance. Growing up, Mom and Dad had always prioritized Lena. They paid for her art lessons despite the fact that we were struggling financially. When I started college, they barely celebrated because they were too busy bailing out Lena from a failed modeling job. I had pushed my way through school by coding late at night, while Lena partied, relying on their support. I believed I had moved on from that mindset. Buying a property in Portland, Oregon indicated we were now equals. But the more I remembered, the clearer everything got. They had always seen her as the star and me as the safety net. It wasn't love that motivated their choices, it was all about convenience. As I pulled into the driveway, my determination hardened. I wanted answers, not just suspicions. Back in my home office, I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. I had reviewed bills previously, but this time I would go further. Every transaction, transfer, and withdrawal. My fingers flew over the keyboard as I retrieved statements from the previous 8 months. I didn't know what I'd uncover, but I knew it wouldn't be just hazy receipts. If they were utilizing me, there would be a trail. Dad's questioning regarding my assets, Mom's shopping bags, and Lena's constant excuses were not random. I created a new note on my phone and labeled it Proof. Over the weekend, I accessed my bank account. My home office was quiet, with the only sound coming from my laptop when I opened the financial dashboard I'd been ignoring for far too long. I'd been paying for everything: house electricity, Mom's shopping, Lena's dreams, but I'd never really looked into where the money went. Now I clicked through the transactions, my heart sinking with each one. There they were, dozens of transfers from my funds to an account I didn't recognize. Thousands of dollars were delivered in installments over months, branded consulting fees or miscellaneous. I double-checked the date. Some matched times when Lena had offered new concepts for her clothesline. Others lined up for Mom's treats. My parents had access to my secondary account to cover household expenditures, but this was different. They had not asked or said anything. I scrolled on, my fingers trembling. A $5,000 transfer was made last month, followed by another $3,000 2 weeks ago. I accessed the account information and discovered the receiver, a company registered in Lena's name. My sister's unsuccessful fashion venture, which she said was almost set to restart, was being funded with my money. I leaned back as the truth struck me like a slap. They weren't just squandering, they were funneling my inheritance to support her fanciful ambition. I felt ill, deceived, and needed to hear it from them. On Sunday morning, I discovered Mom in the kitchen, chopping veggies for lunch. I kept my voice steady and conversational. "Hey, Mom." I was looking at some bank statements. I saw some big transfers. "Do you know anything about them?" She hesitated, knife poised over a carrot, then grinned too fast. "Oh, just some gifts for Lena, to help her get back on her feet." Her gaze did not reach mine, instead darting to the counter. "Gifts?" I asked, coming closer. Thousands of dollars without asking me. She chuckled with a tense edge. Claire, don't make a big deal. It's family, and we share, right? Her words were light, but they felt like a dodge, a cozy lie. I nodded, seeming to let it go, but my thoughts were racing. She was hiding something, and I wasn't buying it anymore. I haven't confronted Dad or Lena yet. I had to make certain to defend what was mine. That afternoon, I traveled to a nearby bank office in Portland, Oregon. The teller, a friendly woman wearing spectacles, guided me through the process of opening a new savings account that only I could access. I sat in her office signing documents, my phone ringing with a text message from Lena. "Can we talk about my next collection?" I ignored it, concentrating on the paperwork. Back at home, I logged in again and deposited half of my inheritance, 6 figures from my grandfather's estate, to the new account. It felt like reclaiming a part of me. I changed the passwords on my other accounts and locked my parents out of the secondary one. They'd notice quickly, but I'd be prepared. On Sunday night, I sat at my workstation, marveling at the new account balance. The transfers to Lena's business were not simply thoughtless. They were premeditated, a betrayal orchestrated behind my back. Mom's deception about the gifts proved it. I recalled all the times I had trusted them, paid over money, and believed we were a team. Now I've seen the truth. They had taken advantage of me, and Lena was complicit. My determination hardened. I wasn't simply safeguarding my money, I was defending myself. I opened my note app and added one last entry. Mom lied about the transfers. They're stealing. I didn't know how I'd confront them, but I knew I would. Soon. Sunday supper began normally until I spoke up. The dining room smelled like roasted chicken, and plates clinked as Mom passed the mashed potatoes. Dad cut the steak with his knife steady, while Lena read through her phone, scarcely touching her food. I sat across from them, my fork laying on my plate and my heart beating. I'd been planning this all day, mentally rehearsing the words. Evidence, transfers, lying. Hidden statements were stacked in my head like a deck of cards. I couldn't eat or pretend anymore. I placed down my napkin, took a deep breath, and continued. I heard your call last week. You did not hang up. And I know what you really think of me. Silence struck the table like a hammer. Dad's knife halted in the middle of a slice. Mom's smile froze and Lena's phone fell to her lap. What are you talking about? Mom inquired, her voice raised and trembling, and I fixed my gaze on hers. You said living with me is awful, but you're staying for my money. Lena laughed as though it were a joke. Dad coughed and laid his knife down. It was just talk, sweetheart, he explained, his tone overly mild, as if he were calming a child. We didn't mean it. Mom swiftly nodded. We were joking, Claire. You know we love you. Their statements seemed prepared and hollow, like lines from a lousy script. I turned to Lena and waited. She gazed at her plate before laughing sharply and dismissively. You're blowing this out of proportion, she remarked, rolling her eyes. That laugh, that sneer, was the same as over the phone, and it made my blood boil. I pushed my chair back, stood, and joked. Then explain the thousands you transferred to Lena's business without asking me. Mom's face turned pale and Dad's jaw tightened. That was for the family, Mom mumbled. We thought you'd want to help. I cut her off. Help? You lied, Mom. You called it a gift when I asked. I trusted you, all of you, and you've been using me. Lena grumbled and crossed her arms. You're so controlling, Claire. Always acting like you're above us. Her comments stung, but I wasn't done. I got out my phone, launched a social media app, and displayed a screenshot. Controlling like this post. Lena described me as a stingy control freak who hoards her money. I discovered it that morning. Oy semi. A public post on her page slamming me to her followers. Mom gave a gasp. Dad turned away and Lena's smirk disappeared. I tossed the phone on the table, the screenshot staring back at them. I saw the transfers, the lies, the post. I'm done being your bank. Dad tried again, this time using a stronger voice. Claire, calm down. We're family. We don't mean harm. But I was done calming down. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't mock you behind your back. I glanced at each of them, Dad's guilty stare, Mom's shaking hands, and Lena's indignant expression. I want you out of my house, all of you, by tomorrow. Mom's fork clattered onto her dish. You can't mean that, she muttered. Lena laughed, bitterly this time. Good luck living alone, Claire. You'll miss us. I did not flinch. I'll manage. Pack your things. They sat startled as I walked to my room. My heart hammered, but my steps remained strong. I'd given them everything, my home, my money, my trust, and they'd thrown it back at me. Lena's article was the final straw, proving she never saw me as a sister, only as a resource. I locked the door, sat on my bed, and opened my note app. I typed, "They're leaving. I'm free." The house was still mine, and I'd keep it that way. They may attempt to negotiate their way out, but I had had it. Monday morning, the house seemed deserted. The dining room table where I confronted them last night remained bare. No plates, no voices. My father, mother, and Lena had packed their belongings and left by daybreak, wheeling their luggage out the door, while I remained in my bed, avoiding goodbyes. I moved through the living room, observing the spaces. Mom's favorite throw blanket is gone. Dad's reading glasses are vanished from the coffee table. Lena's charger is no longer twisted on the couch. They'd moved to a modest rental apartment across Portland, which I'd overheard Mom say to a friend on the phone while loading the car. The silence in the home was deafening, but it also provided a peculiar sense of relief, as if I had dropped a weight I had carried for far too long. As I was making coffee, my phone buzzed. Mom texted, "Claire, we're sorry. We never meant to hurt you. Can we talk?" Dad texted, "You're overreacting, sweetheart. Let's fix this." Lena's message was shorter. "You didn't have to kick us out. Call me." Their words seemed like a pull on the part of me that still desired a family, but I could see through them now. The apologies were too rapid and professional, as if they were attempting to entice me back in. I put the phone down, leaving their messages unanswered. I'd had enough of their excuses at dinner, as well as their phony promises of joking and family sharing. I wasn't falling for it again. By lunchtime, I was sitting in a downtown lawyer's office, a tiny practice suggested by a colleague. The lawyer, a lady with sharp eyes and a notepad, listened as I described the transfers, lies, and social media post. "You need to secure your assets," she added, taking notes. "We'll draft a cease and desist letter for any further unauthorized access and review your property rights." I nodded and signed the paperwork to begin the process. My house and inheritance were mine, and I'd make sure no one touched them again. The lawyer's cool efficiency grounded me, reminding me that I was taking charge rather than simply reacting. Back home, I stood in the kitchen, staring at the area where Mom had sliced vegetables and Lena had browsed her phone. The freedom was real. I could breathe without their judgment and demands. But my heart grieved because of what we had lost. I remember Dad teaching me how to ride a bike and Mom making my birthday cakes. Even Lena braided my hair when we were kids. Those memories felt so distant now, tainted by their treachery. I didn't cry, but the sadness hung heavy, a silent reminder of the family I'd imagined we were. I opened my laptop, logged into my new bank account, and saw the balance I had protected. It wasn't only about money. It was my future, and I was willing to fight for it. 6 months later, I moved to a new apartment. The space was smaller than my previous home in Portland, but every nook was mine, clean, peaceful, and devoid of secrets. I had sold the property, pocketed the profit, and established my life on my own terms. My days were filled with coding projects, late-night debugging sessions, and coffee runs that were free of family drama. I lived for myself, not for others' expectations. Maya stopped me one evening, bringing takeout and a mix of old music we used to listen to in college. "This place suits you, Claire," she added, smiling as we unpacked the noodles on my new couch. We smiled as we discussed work and her current design client. No heavy confessions or advice needed. It was just friendship, easy and real, the kind I'd almost forgotten. I learned about my father and mother through a common acquaintance. They were getting by in their leased abode. No more extravagant dinners or designer handbags. Dad had gotten a part-time work at a hardware shop, and Mom was selling her old jewelry online to help pay bills. Their lifestyle had disintegrated without my money to support it. I didn't feel vindicated. Rather, I felt distanced, as if they were characters from a narrative I had abandoned. Lena fell harder. Her social media posts describing me as domineering and stingy had backfired. Friends and fans turned against her, pointing out her entitlement. Her already fragile fashion firm failed altogether when her last backer walked out. I noticed her profile go silent. There were no more selfies or pitches, only a ghost of the image she had tried to sell. Looking back, I've learned to trust my instincts. That unpleasant sensation I'd suppressed for years was right all along. I had allowed love to blind me, believing that family meant loyalty regardless of the circumstances. However, loyalty does not imply ignoring lies or allowing individuals to drain you. Protecting my worth, money, peace, and boundaries was the most difficult but ultimately rewarding decision I made. Mom said Paris was canceled due to budget issues. Then I saw 92 photos. My parents, their other kids, but not me. I cut them off when they came back. My mother's voice sounded remorseful, perhaps even embarrassed. "Sweetie, I have some disappointing news about the anniversary trip," she told me. "Your father and I had to cancel Paris. Budget concerns arose, and we simply cannot afford it right now." I felt genuine sadness for them. 30 years of marriage are worth celebrating, and they'd been preparing this trip for nearly a year. Mom had sent me links to cafes, museums, and even the little hotel they had chosen in the Marais district. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I know you were really looking forward to it." "These things happen," she said. "Maybe next year." "How are things for you?" We talked for another 20 minutes about my job, teaching high school English, my apartment, and nothing particularly significant. She seemed regular, loving, as always. I am 34 years old, and I have always thought I had a close relationship with my parents. For the majority of my childhood, I was convinced that I was the only child. My childhood in suburban Connecticut was pleasant, steady, and uneventful in the best possible manner. Dad worked in insurance. Mom was a nurse who worked part-time when I began school. We held family dinners. They attended my soccer games. Normal stuff, only there was always something slightly odd that I couldn't quite identify. Small comments here and there. Mom's expressions at times were difficult to read. How specific themes were subtly shifted. A week after that phone call, I was perusing through Facebook during my lunch break, delaying on making report card comments, to be honest. That's when Ashley Reed's post arrived in my newsfeed. Ashley was one of my childhood neighbors. We were cordial, but not close. The type of individuals who liked each other's postings, but rarely communicated. Her most recent update showed her smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower, with the description, "Surprise family reunion in the City of Light." Best week ever. My finger froze on the screen. I opened the album. 92 photos loaded slowly, each one twisting something further within my chest. My mother was at a cafe, wearing a striped shirt and sunglasses and holding a croissant. My father laughed, his wine glass rising. Ashley's parents, whom I had known since childhood, and 3 more people I had never seen in family photos. A woman in her mid-30s with dark curls, a man around my age with my father's nose and chin, a younger woman about 28 with my mother's eyes and smile. They were not going on the trip as buddies. The body language told a different story. The way my mother wrapped her arm around the curly-haired woman, how my father stood between the man and my mother. His hands on both their shoulders, the comfortable intimacy in each shot. Photo 16 shows all 6 of them in a restaurant, champagne glasses lifted. The caption stated, "To family, no matter how complicated." Photo 27 shows my mother and the curly-haired woman, heads together, laughing at something off camera. Photo 46 shows my father with his arms around both women, appearing happier than I had seen him in years. Photo 69, all of them in front of Notre Dame, posing like any family tourist photo, except I'm not in it. I sat in the teacher's lounge, staring at my phone, until the 5th period bell rang. My hands were shaking. Students filed past me in the corridor, and I barely saw them. She'd mentioned budget difficulties. They paid for flights to Paris, lodgings, lunches, wine, and museum tickets. Everything captured in Ashley's 92 images, which she had kindly uploaded and categorized. However, there was no money to include me. No one expressed a wish to incorporate me. I returned home that afternoon and opened my laptop, delving into old family photos for the first time. Birthday parties at which I was the sole child. Holidays with only the 3 of us. Even at extensive family events, I had never seen these 3 folks. The curly-haired woman resembled my mother's jawline. The man held my father's hands. The younger woman combined all of their looks, resulting in 3 people who looked considerably more like my parents than me. I have blonde hair and blue eyes. Both my parents are brunettes with brown eyes. They'd always say I looked like my grandma and showed me old images of a woman I somewhat resembled. I had never questioned it. My fingers moved almost instinctively, scanning adoption registries and genealogy websites for any information that could help me. But I stopped myself. If I had been adopted, they would have told me, right? Unless they felt humiliated, unless I was a mistake that they were stuck with. unless I was something they'd taken on out of obligation, while their true children, their wanted children, were elsewhere. For hours, the thoughts raced through my mind. I did not sleep. I kept going back to those images, scrutinizing every grin, casual touch, and moment of joy that I hadn't been invited to participate. The following morning, I called in sick. I spent the day staring at the walls, my phone, and nothing. Friends texted. I did not respond. There was a weight crushing down on my chest, making breathing difficult. My mother called that evening. I let it go to voicemail. She left a pleasant message about coming by this weekend and possibly going to lunch as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just returned from Paris and those 92 images didn't exist. I erased Facebook from my phone, then reinstalled it an hour later and checked the album again. Ashley had added 98 images. One featured my mother and father on top of the Arc de Triomphe, his arm around her waist, both glowing. Another photo showed all 6 of them having a candlelit meal with the remark, "Finally, everyone together. Worth the wait. Finally, everyone is together." The message was clear. I was not everyone. I was something distinct, someone different. Days have passed. I worked on autopilot at work, returned home to an empty apartment, and avoided all interaction with my parents. Mom called twice more and texted to see if I was okay. I replied with quick messages. "I'm busy with work." "Talk soon," she said, appearing satisfied. 3 weeks after I saw the images, my mother texted again. This time around, the tone was different. "Sweetie, I need your assistance with something vital. Could you please call me when you get a minute?" I looked at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to dismiss it completely. A part of me wanted to call and shout. Instead, I replied, "What is wrong?" 3 dots appeared immediately. She was typing and waiting. Then her reaction came in. "It is complicated. I really do need to explain over the phone. Kindly call me. It is about your father. My father is playing the concern card, the family emergency card." I could see her strategy: get me worried, get me interested, and then ask for whatever she really wanted. Money, time, or any favor she felt she deserved, because I was supposed to be the beautiful daughter. The daughter who did not receive an invitation to Paris. My thumb hovered over the call button. Then I opened Facebook, looked at those photographs again, and allowed the hurt turn colder, harder, and more useful. I responded, "Is this the same father that had budget concerns with Paris? The one in the 92 Facebook images Ashley shared from your family vacation? Is that the father?" The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared, and disappeared. 6 minutes passed, then a dozen. Finally, "Can we please discuss this in person?" "No." "Text works fine." Another prolonged delay. I could image her panic, trying to figure out how much I knew, how I found out, and what she may say. "It's not as you think. Please allow me to explain." Explain what? Explain why you lied about canceling the trip. Explain who those 3 people are. Explain why your budget only covered 6 aircraft tickets, not 7. This time, the reaction was much faster. "You don't understand the whole situation." Something snapped. My fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. "You're correct. I'm not sure why my mother would look me in the eye and lie. I don't get why you take what appears to be your other children on a fantasy vacation and then tell me the money isn't there. I don't understand why I wasted 34 years believing I was your daughter when I'm plainly not. So please clarify the circumstance." The dots emerged and disappeared multiple times. Then my phone rang. Mom called. I declined and sent another text saying, "Text only." What came back was lengthy, clearly typed, and retyped multiple times. "Those are family members I have not seen in years due to difficult circumstances. Your father and I meticulously organized this reunion so that you would not be overwhelmed by family strife that you had never experienced. We planned to tell you everything when the moment was right. This was not about excluding you. We really love you. Please believe that." I reread it 3 times. Each word was carefully chosen, and every justification was precisely made. Who are they? You are half-siblings from before your father and I got married. It is complicated. 3 half-siblings. 3 people that resembled both my parents. 3 persons who had seemingly been kept hidden my entire life. How is this even possible? You are both their parents. A lengthier pause this time. "No, we need to talk in person. This isn't something for text. Make it work for text or don't bother explaining at all." The response took over 25 minutes. Your father has 2 children from his previous relationship. I had one. When we got together, their other parents had custody, and it was a mess. We were young. We made the decisions we thought were best. We attempted to maintain relationships with them after you were born, but it proved difficult. They were hurt and outraged. Eventually, we lost contact. They recently reached out, hoping to reconnect. We felt Paris could be a new beginning. I sat with that explanation, attempting to make it make sense. I had no idea 3 of my half-siblings existed. Relationships that ended before I was born. A reunion trip I was not informed about. Because why? So you believed lying to me and excluding me was the greatest way to deal with a fresh start. We did not want to complicate matters. They were already worried about reconnecting. Adding another person they'd never met seemed like too much. Another human. That's what I was. Too much. A complication. I'm your daughter, not another person. Of course you are. You are my baby girl, but they have been injured for a long time, and we wanted to work on healing those connections first. We were going to notify you later and maybe arrange for everyone to meet shortly. The answer was almost reasonable, made sense, and almost justified the deception. But it didn't. Not even close. You could have told me the truth. You could have said, we are reconnecting with your half-siblings, and we need to make this vacation with only them first. I am 34 years old. I would have understood. Instead, you created a falsehood about budgetary issues. I know you're correct. I apologize. It was wrong. I panicked and stated what came to mind. When did you intend on telling me? Before or after Ashley uploaded 98 images for the world to see? No reaction for a while. Then, I didn't realize she was publishing images. She was not supposed to, but she did. And now I understand. So, what did you need help with? The shift of subject seemed to catch her off guard. The dots appeared and disappeared several times before she responded. Your father needs minor surgery next month. Nothing serious, but he will need someone to transport him home and accompany him for the first day. I have a work conference that I must skip. I read the message 5 times. She wanted me to care for my father, who had spent thousands of dollars on a Paris reunion that I was not invited to. The father who had chosen to reconnect with children who had been absent from his life for decades over being truthful with the daughter he had raised. Ask one of your other children. They don't live nearby, and it's only one day. Please. I'm busy that week. You don't even know which week it is yet. It doesn't matter. Whatever week it is, I am occupied. Do not be childish about this. Your father needs you. Childish. She called me childish. I looked at the Facebook photographs again. My parents laughing in Paris, their other children smiling. A family is complete without me. He needed me as he was debating whether to be open about his secret family reunion. He needed me when he had to choose between lying and trusting me enough to disclose the truth. He didn't appear to need me back then. This is different. This concerns his health. This is about you requesting free caretaker work from the daughter you lied to. I apologized. What else do you want? What did I want? An explanation that made sense. A time machine could undo the betrayal. My parents truly valued me. I'd like you to understand why this hurts. I want you to imagine how it felt seeing those photos, to know that you all spent a week together making memories and being a family, while I bought your lie and felt sorry for you missing your anniversary trip. I do understand, but punishing your father by refusing to help with his surgery isn't the answer. I am not punishing anyone. I am simply unavailable, as if you were unwilling to be truthful with me, as if I were unavailable to get an invitation to Paris. You're being incredibly selfish. The word landed like a smack. Selfish. I was selfish for not quickly forgiving a lie and offering to care for someone who had purposefully excluded me from a key family occasion. Do you know what is selfish, Mom? Lying directly to your daughter's face. Spending thousands of dollars on a trip that you pretend you cannot afford while excluding her. You never mentioned your other 3 children. Then you call and ask for favors when you need them. That is selfish. Those relationships are complicated in ways you can't understand. Then help me comprehend. Tell me the full truth. Show me that you respect me enough to be honest. The dots appeared, disappeared, and reappeared. When can we meet for coffee? We cannot. You must let me explain properly. I don't need to do anything. You're the one who requires something from me, so explain here or don't. Another long wait, followed by a wall of words. Fine. Your father got married before me. They had twins, Ethan and Chloe. When they split, his ex-wife relocated to California with their children. He had summer visits, but they were dirty and terrible. I had Lily from a prior relationship. Her father was not interested. When your father and I got together, we tried to unite the family, but the kids were furious and hurt. Ethan and Chloe blame me for their parents' divorce, which occurred before I met your father. Lily felt that she was losing me. The situation was chaotic. We eventually had you, and we hoped that a baby would bring everyone together. Instead, it made matters worse. The older children felt replaced. Lily was jealous. Their other parents used everything against us. We were young and overwhelmed. We took the difficult decision to pull back and let the elder children live stable lives with their other parents rather than in constant conflict with us. We sent money, cards, and gifts and tried to establish contact, but they eventually stopped replying. We believed we had lost them forever. Then, last year, Ethan reached out. He's married now, has perspective, and wanted to recover. Chloe and Lily felt the same way. We've been rebuilding steadily. Paris was meant to be symbolic, a new beginning. We didn't tell you because we didn't want to raise your expectations if it failed, and we didn't want to burden you with decades of family history. We wanted to protect you. I read it twice. It was the most information I'd ever received about my parents' past. It addressed the mechanics, but it didn't explain why they chose to lie over trusting me with the truth. I am 34. You did not need to defend me. You are our baby. We will always wish to safeguard you. By lying, by excluding me, making me feel like I don't matter. You're more important than anything, but it was about them, not you. It became about me the second you lied to my face. What would you like me to say? I have apologized. I have explained. I can't change what happened. I want you to know that this broke something. I want you to know you chose them over me. I'd like you to admit that your protection felt like rejection. I've never chosen them above you. I choose to approach a delicate subject cautiously. You decided to lie. Own that. Fine. I decided to lie. I was mistaken. Will you now aid your father? The arrogance of it nearly made me chuckle. An admission of fault was promptly followed by the same request she had begun with. No. He is your father. He's also someone who values reconciliation with children he hasn't seen in decades over honesty with the daughter he raised. He made his pick. I'm making mine. You'll regret this. Maybe. But right now, my main regret is that I didn't see this coming. Seeing what's coming? That I was never truly a part of your family. I was the child you had to keep. They were the kids you wanted. That's not true. Prove it. Show me one piece of evidence that I am as important to you as they are. No response. The dots appeared and faded multiple times, but no message arrived. I waited for 25 minutes. Nothing. Then 1 hour. Finally, my phone called again. Dad. This time, I declined it. He called right back. I declined again. He texted me. Your mother is very upset. Call me. I responded, I'm sure the family you spent a week with in Paris can comfort her. Do not be like this. We love you. You have a funny way of showing it. We made a mistake. Let us make things right. How are you going to uninvent the lie? Uninvite your other children to Paris and bring me instead? Travel back in time and tell me the truth from the start? Be reasonable. I'm being sensible. You lied. I found out. Now you want a favor. The reasonable answer is no. Family helps family. These words sat on my screen, loaded with sarcasm. Family helps family. My family left me out. My relatives lied to me. The family who expected me to forgive and forget because they required something. Ask your family. You currently have 3 additional children. I'm confident one of them can assist. You're being petty. I am being honest. Something I recently discovered that this family struggles with. My father did not respond. The hush lasted for hours. Around midnight, my mother texted again. Please consider what you're doing. Your father's procedure is very crucial. My emotional well-being is also crucial. Clearly less essential than your Paris reunion, but significant to me. We can sort this out. Simply help him first, then we'll sit down and hash it out. So, help me first. Then maybe you'll respect me enough to have a proper discourse. That's not how this works. What do you want from us? The question hung there. What did I want? An apology. I'd received a half-hearted one. What's the truth? She gave me a variation of it. Understanding? It seemed inconceivable. I want you to deal with the repercussions of your decisions. I want you to understand that once shattered, trust does not heal itself. I want you to feel a fraction of how I felt when I saw those photographs. So, you want revenge. I seek accountability. By refusing to assist with a medical operation, you are establishing that I am unavailable whenever you require assistance, regardless of how you treat me. This is cruel. No. Lying in someone's face and then uploading vacation images for all to see is harsh. Calling your kid juvenile and selfish because she has been harmed is cruel. I'm simply unavailable. My father responded with another long silence. I'll ask Ashley's daughter to help. She's made previous offers. Ashley, the neighbor who had uploaded all of the images, who had accompanied them to Paris, and who appeared to be more connected with my family than I was. That sounds perfect. Your mother is heartbroken. She will recover. She has 3 other children to console her. Yeah, and stop throwing that in our faces. Stop claiming you had no idea what you were doing. No further messages arrived that night. The next morning, I received an email from my mother, long, thorough, and emotional. She talked again about the delicate family relationships, her desire to protect me, and her unwavering love for me. She promised to prepare a unique trip for just the 3 of us. She swore it would never happen again. She made no apologies for calling me selfish. She did not admit that lying was wrong beyond a simple "mistakes were made" comment. She didn't seem to get why trust wasn't instantaneously restored. I did not respond. Days turned into weeks. My father's surgery came and went. According to Facebook, Ashley's daughter did assist. Mom thanked her, referring to her as an angel in our time of need. She said nothing about her actual daughter, who rejected to help. I blocked them both on social media and changed my relationship status to "it's complicated" as a private joke with myself. Friends inquired if everything was fine with my parents. I gave vague replies about growing apart, the need for space, and family differences. The facts seemed too difficult to describe. How do you tell people that you found your parents had 3 more children that they had kept concealed throughout your life? That they had taken those youngsters on a fantasy vacation while lying to you about their financial problems? That when questioned, they apologized but then quickly requested favors? It sounded absurd even in my own thoughts. A month after the surgery, my mother delivered flowers to my school, a large, expensive arrangement with a note reading, "Missing my daughter. Love, Mom." I presented them to the school secretary. 2 months later, my father arrived at my apartment. I saw him through the glass, but did not answer the door. He knocked for 12 minutes before leaving an envelope under the doorstep. Inside was a handwritten letter, several pages long. He shared his thoughts on the divorce, losing custody, and the sorrow of estrangement from his elder children. He talked about how important having me was to him, how much he wanted and loved me. He explained that the Paris trip was his idea, a desperate attempt to repair decades-old wounds before it was too late. He still has not apologized for the untruth. The letter concluded with, "I hope one day you will forgive us. We are still your parents. We still love you. The door is constantly open." I tucked the letter away and tried to get on with my life, but the hurt remained fresh. Every time I saw a family together, I thought about those images. Every time someone addressed their parents, "Tis," I felt a sense of betrayal. Every holiday without communication felt difficult and essential. 4 months after everything broke apart, Ethan added me as a Facebook friend. I gazed at the request for a long time. My half-brother, one of the persons in those Paris images, and one of the reasons I'd been rejected. I accepted it out of curiosity. He sent a message instantly. "Hey, I realize this is strange. Our parents told us what had transpired. I wanted to reach out directly." Against my better judgment, I replied, "Why?" "Because they botched up. Chloe, Lily, and I spoke about it. We didn't realize they had lied to you. We assumed you knew about us and chose not to attend." Something loosened in my chest. "They told you I couldn't make it. They heard you were busy at work. We were truly disappointed that we wouldn't get to meet you." I sat back and processed. They had lied to everyone. I was informed about budgetary concerns. I told them I was too busy, kept us apart while claiming it was for everyone's advantage. "Have they told you anything about me before to the trip?" Honestly, not much. We knew we had a younger half-sister. That's about it. They kept everything relatively separate. We assumed it was because you were not interested in connecting. I didn't know you existed until I saw the Paris photos. Are you serious? Completely. I was 34 years old and had never heard of any of you. Holy, that's really messed up. I am sorry. Not your fault. Still, for what it's worth, we'd like to get to know you if you're interested, without our parents involved. I thought about it. These were my siblings. Whether I knew about them or not, they had not sought to be kept private. They had not made the decision to exclude me. Maybe. I still need time to comprehend everything. I completely understand. I'll be here when you're ready. The conversation ended, but something had changed. The fury was still present, but it found a new focus. My parents' decisions had caused harm to many people. They had kept siblings apart. They had lied to everyone involved, and they still didn't seem to realize what they had done wrong. My mother left a voicemail for me on my birthday 4 months after our vacation to Paris. She was crying, telling me how much she missed me and how she hoped I would reconsider excluding them from my life. I did not call back. Instead, I texted Ethan, "I believe I'm ready to discuss more. Coffee sometime?" His response was quick. "Absolutely. Chloe and Lily have also been inquiring about you. We could all get together if you wish. Let's start with only you. Build up to the group setting." Deal. We met the following week at a cafe located midway between our apartments. He resembled his Facebook photos, tall, with my father's features and my mother's coloring. It felt weird to see him in person. We talked for 4 hours about his childhood, his memories of visits with his father that ended when he was 14, the bewilderment and hurt of being driven out of his father's life, and the surprise of reconnecting and discovering he had a sister who had been kept in the dark. They tried to control everything, he informed me, place everyone in separate boxes. I think they honestly thought it was for the best. The best for whom? I asked. For them, so they didn't have to deal with the messiness of blended family complications. It made twisted sense. My parents attempted to avoid problems by compartmentalizing their life, but in doing so, they caused more anguish than if they had simply been honest from the beginning. Do you believe they will ever realize what they did? I asked. Ethan shrugged. I do not know. Mom continues to try to rationalize it. Dad typically keeps quiet. They're wounded because you're not talking to them, but I don't think they understand why. They called me selfish. Of course they did. Taking accountability is difficult. We began meeting regularly. Then I met Chloe, who was intelligent, humorous, and possessed my mother's wit. Then came Lily, who was both quiet and warm. 3 siblings I'd never met. 3 people who knew what it was like to be controlled and manipulated by parents who thought they knew best. 6 months after Paris, Chloe sent a group message. The parents want to prepare a family supper. All of us. They are asking if we think you will come. I stared at the message. Half of me wanted to reject on principle, but another half was tired of constantly being furious. Do they want to truly apologize or simply pretend nothing happened? Chloe responded, "Not sure. Do you want me to ask?" "Yes. And tell them that pretending is not an option." She responded an hour later. Dad says he's prepared to have a difficult chat. Mom is resistant, but she swears she will try. Not good enough. Both of them must accept responsibility for their actions. Full accountability. No excuses. Ethan said, "We can be there as backup if you want." The thought of confronting my parents with my siblings present felt right. They could not gaslight me if there were witnesses. You couldn't call me childish or selfish in front of an audience. Okay, I will come. However, there are certain ground rules. They apologize nicely. They explain why they chose each option, and they understand that trust must be rebuilt, not commanded. Lily responded, "We'll make sure they understand before we confirm." The meal was scheduled for the next month at my parents' place, which felt like entering enemy territory. But I had spent 34 years thinking that house was my home. Perhaps it was time to recapture it, or let it go permanently. The night of the dinner, I arrived with Ethan. Having him around made me feel braver. Chloe and Lily were already inside. My mom opened the door. She seemed older and thinner than I remembered, with red eyes. "Hi, sweetie," she murmured quietly. "Mom." We stood awkwardly until Ethan gently led me inside. The dining room table was arranged formally. My father stood as we arrived. He appeared uncomfortable in a way I hadn't seen previously. We all sat. The tension was suffocating. Eventually, my father cleared his throat. "Thanks for coming. We understand it hasn't been easy. I waited and said nothing. We wanted to explain ourselves, Mom said, to help you understand. No, I interrupted. We are not going to explain things first. First and foremost, I apologize. Real ones. They exchanged glances. Chloe gave them an encouraging nod. Dad talked first. We're sorry we lied about our Paris trip. We assumed it would be easier than explaining the problem, but we were mistaken. It hurt you, and that was not our aim. It was better than nothing. Barely. And I prompted. Mom drew a breath. And we apologize for how we handled the entire affair, for being dishonest about your siblings, for attempting to control everyone individually rather than bringing you all together, for calling you selfish when you were clearly hurt. Why did you do this? I asked. The actual cause, not the protective parent argument, the actual truth. They were silent for a long time. Then Dad replied, because it was easier, because coping with the complexities of blended families, including damaged feelings and competing needs, was exhausting, because we were selfish and preferred to avoid uncomfortable conversations. There it was, the truth. We convinced ourselves it was for everyone's benefit, my mother said, but actually, it was for us. We did not want to confront the implications of our previous decisions. We did not want to confess that we had failed to maintain relationships with Ethan, Chloe, and Lily. Starting over with them seemed like a second chance, and including you entailed admitting all the ways we had kept everyone apart. Tears were scorching my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Do you know why that hurt so much? Yes, Mom whispered. You were the daughter we raised, the one who was always present, but we treated you as if you were less important than the children we had lost. That was incorrect. That was extremely wrong. The only sound in the room was my mother crying. I love you, she stated. I love you so much, and I betrayed your confidence. I'm not sure whether I'll ever be able to remedy that, but I'd want to try, however long it takes. I looked around the table at my father, who appeared truly sorry, at Ethan, Chloe, and Lily, who were all watching with encouraging looks. My mother was coming apart. It's going to take time, I admitted. A lot of time, and absolute honesty from now on. No more managing me, no more falsehoods, no matter how minor, no more treating me as if I'm too frail to handle the reality. We can do that, Dad said. We will do that. And therapy. Family therapy is for all of us. Mom nodded. Whatever you need. I'm not ready to forgive yet, I replied gently, but I'm willing to try to rebuild. That's more than we deserve, she explained. Perhaps it was. Maybe I was being overly generous, but I got weary of being furious. I was tired of the unhealed wound, tired of spending holidays alone and receiving unreturned birthday voicemails. The supper was odd, but not bad. We basically talked about the surface. Ethan shared stories that made everyone chuckle. Chloe inquired about my job. Lily shared photos of her kitten. My parents were cautious around me, deferential in a way they hadn't been previously. It felt odd, yet necessary. When I left, my mother hugged me at the door. I let her, even though it made me uneasy. Thank you for coming, she muttered. Thank you for giving us a chance. I drove home with Ethan, and we were both quiet. That was intense, he finally stated. Yeah, you okay? I do not know. Maybe. For what it's worth, I believe you handled it well. You didn't let them off easily, but you also didn't entirely close the door. I wanted to, I confessed. Some of me still does. However, another part of me want to reunite with my family, another side of my family, one in which everyone is honest. That is fair. That is actually healthy. We drove silently for a while longer. Then Ethan added, I am delighted we met. All that aside, I'm delighted I have a sister. Something warm stretched across my chest. Me too. The healing process was slow, painful, and essential therapy sessions, dinners where old wounds were painstakingly probed, conversations in which my parents were forced to face their embarrassment rather than avoid it. My mother battled the most. She desired rapid forgiveness and the restoration of normalcy. However, normalcy had disappeared. We were creating something new, and she needed to accept it. My father was quieter but more consistent. He showed up for each therapy session. He listened more than he talked. He accepted my restrictions without complaining. A year after Paris, the 8 of us traveled to Boston, a place none of us had visited before. Neutral terrain for a family attempting to figure out who they were to one another. We walked the Freedom Trail, ate seafood in the North End, and snapped shots that included everyone. On the last night, while sitting in a restaurant facing the water, my mother raised her glass. "To second chances," she remarked, "and to the daughter who was brave enough to demand better from us." It was not ideal. The pain had not gone away, but we were trying. Honestly, haphazardly, and poorly. Ethan caught my gaze across the table and smiled. Chloe squeezed my hand. Lily laughed at something Dad said, and for the first time in a year, I felt as if I belonged to something real. Not the neatly crafted fantasy that my parents had maintained for decades. Not the segmented relationships they'd attempted to control, but something genuine, based on truth, accountability, and the hard effort of those who decided to participate. My mother still sought to rationalize her decisions. My father still struggled to convey his emotions. They tried, though, and I was discovering that sometimes just trying is enough. The thrill of watching them face the repercussions of their misdeeds had evolved into something more valuable than my initial desire for revenge. I had regained my voice. I had created boundaries. I had discovered siblings I never knew I needed. My parents had realized that love without honesty isn't true love at all. When people asked about my family now, I gave a different response than before. I have siblings. We were figuring stuff out. My parents and I had gone through a difficult time, but we were rebuilding. The truth, as chaotic as it was, felt better than the well-crafted lies I'd been fed my entire life. My mother called again 2 years after the initial phone conversation concerning budget difficulties. This time, her voice was hopeful yet guarded. "I wanted to run something by you," she explained. "Your father and I are planning another trip, a large family one. We'd like to invite everyone, and if you're interested, you can help plan it." I thought about the girl who sat in a teacher's lounge, staring at images of Paris, feeling worthless and ostracized, about the woman I'd become, someone who recognized her worth and demanded respect. "Where were you thinking?" "We thought maybe you could choose somewhere you've always wanted to go." "Italy," I said immediately. "I've always wanted to see Italy." "So Italy it is. Will you help me plan it?" "On one condition." "Name it." "There are no lies about anything, even if you believe you're protecting someone, even if it is uncomfortable. Complete honesty." "I promise," she replied, and for the first time in years, I trusted her. 8 months later, the 8 of us stood in front of the Colosseum, taking a family portrait. This time, I was in the center, with my mother's arm over my shoulders, my father on the opposite side, and my siblings encircling us. Ethan captured the photograph using a timer. We counted down together, smiling. Later, when my mother shared it on Facebook with the message, "Family finally complete," I didn't feel the pang I expected. Instead, I felt near to peace. Ashley Reed said, "Beautiful family." I appreciated her reply since it was accurate. We were beautiful, in our shattered, rebuilt, and convoluted way. That night, over wine at a Trieste restaurant, Chloe asked me, "Do you think you've forgiven them?" I thought about the question thoroughly. I believe I have accepted what happened and decided to go on. Is this the same as forgiveness? I'm not sure, but it's enough for now. "That's fair," Lily replied. "Forgiveness is overrated anyway. Accountability works better." My mother overheard and shuddered slightly, but did not dispute. She had learned not to. "To accountability," said Ethan, raising his glass. We all clinked glasses together, and in that moment, surrounded by individuals who had been strangers 2 years prior but were now unmistakably family, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: optimism. The kind of hope that comes from working hard to improve things, rather than pretending everything is good. From expressing the truth, even when it is painful. From demanding respect and extending grace in equal measure. My phone vibrated, a text from a pal back home. "How was the trip?" I gazed around the table at my imperfect parents, who were actually trying, my siblings, who'd become my best supporters, and the crazy, wonderful family we'd all chosen to create together. I responded, "Complicated but nice." "Very good."